Listen, y'all, D'Angelo Russell better not screw this up. Okay, if you tuned into yesterday's episode at all, you'll remember that it was reported by the sideline that the Milwaukee Bucks have shown interest in players like Cam Thomas and D'Angelo Russell, which, I kind of threw question marks way up in the air whenever talking about that yesterday, but I'm also not complaining, right? Whenever teams are calling about D'Angelo Russell, my big ask is that he doesn't screw it up, right? I'm going to tell you more about why I think he's screwing things up here in just a moment. But listen, we have 4 days until the trade deadline, maybe even a little bit less than that now because it ends at, I believe, 2 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. So we're less than 72 hours away from things being shut down on the trade front. And it's so interesting to me. The Mavericks still have the same priorities, right? We want to free up roster slots so that we can sign our two-way contract guys to standard NBA contracts. Again, Ryan Nembhard and Moussa Cisse. Those guys have well outperformed their undrafted two-way rookie contract. And it's time to give them what they're due. So that's definitely a priority. The other priority for the Mavericks that's been talked about ad nauseum is the whole we need to salary dump thing. We need to free up some cap space so that as we are looking through the lens of building a incredible roster around Cooper Flagg, we got to have flexibility to do so. Right? So trading D'Angelo Russell to a team like the Milwaukee Bucks in exchange for a 12-pack of nasty beer, that type of move checks both of those boxes for the Dallas Mavericks. But it sounds like maybe that is already dead in the water. We're going to talk more about that in just a second. But guys, again, we are less than 72 hours away. In today's shortened episode, which, by the way, you thought that I had forgotten about recording. I said yesterday that I was going to commit to recording 5 days in a row. And this morning I tried to record at my normal time, which is before any normal human being would get out of bed. But I was having technical issues, right? The storage on the cloud was full. So I was either going to have to condense some previous videos or delete or whatever to free up the space it would take to record and post this one. I didn't forget. Here we are. It's good to be back. But again, because it's so late in the day, it's going to be a shorter episode. I am your host, Ethan, the Advisor Clayton. Welcome to the party. And by party, I mean dope podcast. This is Your Mavs, a Dallas Mavericks podcast where all are welcome. Y'all better behave, right? Especially as we're coming up on the trade deadline. Behave yourselves. Anyway, let's dive in. Normally, I would say lots to talk about. Let's dive in. Really, I've got 2 or 3 things I want to cover in today's shortened episode. But let's go back to the D'Angelo Russell of it all, right? The namesake of today's episode. Don't screw this up, homie. Here's what I mean by that. Okay, again, it was reported the other day that the Bucks are looking at D'Angelo Russell as a potential, hey, let's bring in a savvy veteran, secondary ball handler, right? The Bucks really need all the help they can get to generate any sort of offense. Don't ask me how he would fit in with their shell of a roster. That's not my problem. That's above my pay grade. I'm not even going to spend any energy on that. However, when I say that he screwed it up, it sounds like that conversation with Milwaukee is already dead in the water, because what they did is they said, hey, D'Angelo, we want you to bring your talents to Milwaukee, but you got to work with us on something. We need you to go into this offseason with the mentality that you are going to decline your player option and then re-sign at the veteran minimum. Then we're going to be friends. We're going to work together for a very long time. D'Angelo Russell, according to the Steinline, has balked at that idea. Okay, so on the one hand, homie is 29 years old, right? On paper, you don't look at a 29-year-old and say, oh yeah, they're definitely way past their prime. They're not a serviceable basketball player anymore. And D'Angelo Russell really hasn't shown us anything that would lead us to come to that conclusion. Now, has he been pretty awful to watch? Yeah, absolutely. Does he get along with Jason Kidd? It doesn't seem like it, because homie has not really seen any meaningful playing time since mid-December. So that's coming up on a month and a half of zero basketball action. But if you stay on that path where you're catching DNP CDs like they're going out of style, well, you got to wonder what your value really is across the league, because they're seeing that very thing. They're seeing that the Dallas Mavericks have been struggling at the literal point guard position, the position that D'Angelo Russell is supposed to play. And it doesn't matter. Like, he's not seeing any time. Instead, we're going to use up all the remaining games on Ryan Nembhard's two-way contract, right? We're going to run actions constantly for Brandon Williams whenever he's in the game so that he gets to the hoop, draws a foul, finishes. Right? He's really good at that. But if those things aren't working, it doesn't matter. It's not like we're recalibrating. Okay, D'Lo, it's your turn. Get out there. That's not happening at all. So do you think we're noticing that kind of thing? So maybe they see that situation and then they feel like they got a little bit of leverage. Like, look, man, we like eventually bring to our team, right? We like the creativity, the ball handling, the playmaking, ultimately the 3-point shooting. If you could ever like set your feet and look at the basket before you shoot, like those are things that like a team like Milwaukee could potentially see a benefit in signing or trading for a player like D'Angelo Russell. But it's not going to happen because he's saying, well, I'm worth more than a veteran minimum contract. And I love that confidence. Okay. I love that. I believe in myself. I believe that I can make more than 3.2 million and be well worth it. But like, you got to take a step back and look at the facts here. Right now, he's on that taxpayer mid-level exception. I think it's like $5.1 million of salary cap this year. And that bumps up to 5.5 next year. By the way, why did Nico Harrison give him a player option in the second year of the contract? Nico was really on one. I don't know if you remember that whole hype video about the potential signing of D'Angelo Russell. Like, hey, I like you with the chip on your shoulder. This is about to be a problem. You're exactly what we're looking for in Dallas. That's not true. None of it was true. Okay. And teams across the league are noticing that. And they're like, look, you're still serviceable. We still have a place for you on our roster, but you got to like look past I'm worth more money than what you could potentially offer me. I'm definitely taking that player option into next season. So, man, can we like not with that right now? I appreciate your very little service that you've given to the Dallas Mavericks, but like we've got a situation here where, like I was saying a few moments ago, we got to clear up that cap space. We got to free up roster spaces to sign people to full-time NBA contracts. We've got things that we need to do, and the clock is ticking, and Homie is being perhaps belligerent about what he thinks his value is right now, and belligerent about whether or not he's going to sign or decline that player option in the next season. Homie, do us this favor. Please don't screw it up for us. Please, 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 please. But yeah, we'll talk more moving pieces in the trade deadline here in just a second. But I had to say some stuff about D'Lo. It's been a while, right? I came at the start of the season talking big stuff about how D'Lo could potentially be a 6-man of the year type of player for the Mavericks. And oh my gosh, I could not have been more incorrect about that, right? Hindsight is 2020. My future vision was really blurry when it came to D'Lo. I hope we all can forgive me for that. Now, speaking of forgiveness, hopefully you can forgive the Dallas Mavericks for what I interpret to be a little bit of fibbing, okay? On this podcast, as I said yesterday, like pretty much the only reports that I'm going to talk about like with any real concrete angle is anything that comes out of the Steinlein report, right? Like anytime that Shams tweets something out, like it usually it's give it an hour and then Mark Stein will offer some sort of clarification or even a contradiction for what Shams originally tweeted. So I'm very much team Mark Stein. And in the Steinlein on Sunday, he did an incredible piece about the 1-year anniversary of the Luka trade, right? It still doesn't make any sense, right? Still just even from a beat writer like his perspective, he's never seen anything like it before or since. But along with the Luka tidbits and, you know, kind of the musings and meditations that he's had over the past year about the Dallas Mavericks and the potential direction that we could go moving forward, he mentioned, you know, some like maybe not breaking news, but he like some up-to-date current status updates for the Dallas Mavericks. And he said, right now, as it stands, the Dallas Mavericks have taken the stance that they do not want to trade Naji Marshall or Max Christie. So let's pause there for a second. Do I think the Dallas Mavericks are fibbing whenever I say when they say they don't want to trade Max Christie? No, I think that is 100% the gospel truth. why would you want to trade Max Christie right now? I guess the argument could be made, hey, he's at a pretty high premium. His value is up because he's on a extremely team-friendly contract. I don't know. I'm going to move past that because I think that is absolute truth, right? We shouldn't trade Max Christie. Like if somebody came in, they wanted to offer like 2 firsts and an exciting young player like Max Christie, I might be willing to listen to that, but I don't make those decisions anyway. But let's talk about the Naji Marshall of it all. This is where I think the Dallas Mavericks were fibbing a little bit. We do not want to trade Naji Marshall. And guys, you've heard me talk about this so much. There is no desire in my bones or in my body to trade Naji Marshall. Like, he has become a fan favorite for a very good reason. He has gotten us through some really, really low times, post Luka trade, post all the terrible injuries that seemed to plague us last year and continued into this year, right? Like, he has been such a steady, like, presence on both sides of the floor for us. And like, honestly, a great guy to keep around. However, okay, one thing that I've learned about the trade deadline this season is that there's a lot of posturing that goes around. It's been reported for a couple of weeks now that Naji Marshall is garnering a ton of interest across the league, especially with title contenders. So, yeah, the Mavericks are going to come out and publicly say, we don't want to trade Naji Marshall. I don't think you ever want to trade anybody that means that much to your franchise and to your fans and to ultimately, like, a good basketball product on the floor. You don't want that. But if you're looking at it from a dollars and cents perspective, if you're looking at it from a business perspective, we got to have a good team on the floor at all times. We got to have an exciting future direction that we're going, that all is oriented around Cooper Flagg. Yeah, you got to take a step back and look. Okay, Naji Marshall is 27 years old. He is the most valuable he has ever been and probably ever will be for the rest of his career. He is on an incredibly team-friendly I believe he only has about $18 million left on his contract from this season into next. By the way, his contract will technically be an expiring contract next season, right? So do you see why, if we don't do something now, like this before this deadline related to Naji Marshall, well, that massive window of opportunity that, like, could get us again maybe another first round pick, someone younger and maybe even cheaper than Naji Marshall that we can, like, again, recalibrate around Cooper Flagg, that I think that's something we have to not mess up, unfortunately. Okay. So when the Mavericks come out and say we are not interested in trading Naji Marshall, I think I'm going to call BS on that. Again, if we're going to argue semantics, maybe they don't want to. Maybe it's not something that they're excited about. Like, ooh, let's cook up the trade machine. Who's going to call us today? I don't think that's how they're viewing it, but they're probably getting phone calls off it's ringing off the hook right now, if I had to guess, right? Especially with less than 72 hours before the deadline. Like, that's our most valuable asset right now. That is our most tradable asset right now, even ahead of Daniel Gafford, because over the next couple of years, he's going to make half of what Daniel Gafford is committed to make. So, guys, I do think that, maybe tomorrow we see Naji Marshall play his last game as a Dallas Maverick, right? I need you to be emotionally and mentally prepared for that. Now, it's not going to sting or hurt nearly as bad as what the Luka trade did, obviously, but it might feel a little bit like the Quentin Grimes trade, where we think we maybe could have gotten more, but ultimately, like, we've got to look at it through the lens of what I was talking about a few minutes ago and what you've heard me say 1,000 times. Going into next season, cap flexibility, youth, and draft capital. Those are the things that we have to be thinking at the top of our list. Not, okay, how do we reorient our books so that we can build around Cooper Flagg and we can sign the rookie contract extensions for Derek Lively and Max Christie and convert those two-way guys into standard NBA contracts and offer a contract extension to Naji Marshall. Guys, you're starting to see this list gets really, really long, okay? And if you ask my opinion, even again, I don't want to do it. I think I see how important he is, how fun he is to watch, right? you got to look at that long list of things that are going to be like huge priorities for us moving forward. And apart from any other major trade happening, like let's say we were to get rid of Daniel Gafford, Klay Thompson, Caleb Martin, Jaden Hardy, and we freed up a ton of roster space and cap flexibility. Great. Go in there and offer Naji Marshall 15 to 20 million a year. Call it a day. Keep him around as long as he can. We don't have that luxury right now. Okay. So again, I'm going to say emotionally and mentally prepare yourself for that trade announcement that it's going to be Naji Marshall. Like it's going to suck. But a year from now, when we're reevaluating, hopefully we're not going to look at that trade like we've looked at the Luka trade or even the Quentin Grimes trade of last season. We cannot be stuck in the past anymore. We have to move this thing forward because we have such an incredible opportunity ahead of us, such an exciting trajectory ahead of us. And we have to get these next couple of business days right. Okay. And then beyond that, we're going to have to get the GM search right. Then beyond that, we're going to have to evaluate draft talent correctly and, build complementary pieces around Cooper Flagg. We're going to have to do all that right. But right now, you strike while the iron's hot. Your phone is being rung off the hook. You should listen. I don't want to hear any more posturing about where we don't want to trade Naji Marshall. Great. That's probably true. Do it anyway. Guys, that's all I've got for you today. I said it was going to be a shorter episode. And I still went 16 and a half minutes. Just wait till tomorrow morning. It's going to get juicier and juicier and juicier as we get closer to the buzzer of the deadline. But yeah, y'all be good. Party on.